Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and Administrator. Thanks for being with us today. Good seeing you again. And I appreciated our meetings that we've had in the past. And if I could, I know it's kind of come up already about the on the clean water and drinking water revolving funds. If I could just bring that up a little bit, because on page 2 of your testimony, you said that because of the constrained fiscal environment, the budget decreases the state revolving funds by nearly $950 million while supporting a long-term goal of providing about 5% of the total water infrastructure spending and spurring more efficient system-wide planning. But when you're cutting $947 million from these funds, and you're allocating at the same time about $252 million in climate change, and even though we've been talking about that, and that $252 million is an increase of $56 million from those that were enacted in fiscal year 2010. It's getting to the point, as we've talked, that these localities just can't afford this. And my question is that as we're increasing funds for the climate fund programs that Congress has made clear for weeks that you don't have the authority to regulate. My question is, what are we going to do for these communities out there that are really suffering?
Well, we continue to fund in the President's proposed budget the state revolving funds. The goal is to try to get to a point, remember they're revolving, so they are loan paybacks that come in that also go into the funds, to get to a point where we're funding about 5% of need on an annual basis, not the cumulative need. And they are tough choices, I would certainly admit that, but after unprecedented expenditures in the Recovery Act, we had $6 billion there, plus the President had a huge increase in the SRFs in his 2010 budget. In a tough year, it seemed that we would just not be able to be as generous this year.
Well, and also I know some other members have brought this question about the on the green side, but under your budget proposal, for the agency mandates that no less than 10% of the drinking water fund capitalization grant be made available for projects that include these green infrastructure, water or energy efficient improvements or other environmentally innovative projects. And again, though, when the communities back home don't have the dollars to comply right now, what do I tell them when they call me and say, how are we going to comply with the mandates?
Well, the state revolving funds are meant to supplement communities, especially small communities. We work very hard with rural communities, the Rural Association as well, to put money to try to help communities comply. But obviously, the vast majority of systems are paid for by fees. So this money, which goes out in low-interest loans for large systems, can be grant forgiveness. I admit that there is a huge need out there, but we can only invest what we can in tight budget times.
Okay, could you define for me what are spurring more efficient system-wide planning? This is the goal of providing 5% of the water infrastructure spending and spurring more efficient system-wide planning.
Well, I think in many cases you have opportunities. I just know this from my state experience, to look at regional opportunities where you might have a municipal system, rural systems nearby that might be able to hook in so that you don't have to make the same expenditures. The money is intended to try to get communities to look at the most cost-effective way to deliver clean water and deliver wastewater services, recognizing that the federal government simply cannot pay the whole tab, and not even the majority of it. Okay,
because and that's, the way you described it right there, when I think about my area and a lot of the districts out there, we have a problem, of course, that we're very, very rural in a lot of areas, and there's just absolutely no way that, one community could say, well, we're going to work with another community because it'd be just too expensive to even try to get one, to have a system for that area. So, I guess when you're looking at using 5% of those dollars for that, wouldn't that be in some cases more beneficial to be using those dollars to help these communities that don't have the money, that don't, right now? I had a courthouse conference recently in one of my counties, and I had the mayor there. I can't tell you how many citizens, and they're all talking about the same thing. They cannot afford this. It's going to drive everybody out that can get out if they can sell their homes now, because the cost is going to be so great on the water and the sewer side. But I'm very, very concerned about these communities not being able to meet these goals that the EPA has mandated on them.
Well, sir, the standards for drinking water are federal standards that are intended to protect health. And my belief is every community should have clean water, but I also recognize that some communities are financially strapped. So it's incumbent upon us, not just as EPA, but as a government, to try to help those communities, but not to say, not tell them what the standards are, either for drinking water or discharge or raw sewage. Those things impact our water quality.